And as promised, we've got a great guest today. We have Norfolk County Sheriff Pat McDermott, who's been on the job a little while, and he's going to tell us what it is to be a sheriff in Norfolk County and all of the things he's working on. Pat, thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you, Representative Tom. It's great to be here and great to be a part of your show and get some word out to the folks that are watching and following you as to what we do at the Norfolk County Sheriff's Office.
Well, as of course, as you know, folks in Brookline are watching on Brookline Interactive Group, and let's get right into it. Sheriff, what have you been doing until now? What's your story, man?
I have, I've been blessed. I'm 52 years old, and I've lived, I think, multiple of lifetimes. I like to say, I've had a multitude of careers over the course of 52 years, and I guess it all started. I was actually born in Brighton, moved to Quincy actually back in 1973, and I went to school, local schools in Quincy, and then I was brought down. I went to a local parochial school, Catholic school, St. Anne's, and I was brought down one day to audition what I thought was to be for the local church choir. And next thing you know, there was a party sending me off over to Cambridge, to St. Paul's in Cambridge for choir school. And so I kind of got my independence there, taking the train every day, going over to Harvard Square to school, and learned how to be a great singer as a young age. Luckily, I transitioned from being a soprano to a baritone pretty well, so I could still carry a tune. Went on to Boston College High School, graduated in 1987. Went on to BC, where I have my connection with Brookline a little bit. Never got in any trouble over there. Always was a model citizen over in Brookline and Chestnut Hill. But graduated with a degree in political science and communications. But always had a passion towards public service and being involved in my community. So when I graduated from BC, got very much involved with my local neighborhood association in Quincy, the Montclair Wollaston group. And one night as a young kid, I was at a function, and one of the founders of the group came up and said, "Hey, we could use some new blood on our officers, and would you be willing to kind of serve as one of the officers?" And being a young man, somewhat arrogant, I guess, I said, "Well, I'll be happy to do it. But the only job I'll take is president." Now I was kind of joking. I was joking with Howie, and I showed up at the next meeting, and I was nominated as president. So I became president of my neighborhood association when I was 22, 23, and at the same time, I stayed active in my local community. Got involved because I love politics. My dad was a very good friend of the former Speaker of the House, Tom O'Neill. And so I grew up in a household of politics. So I immediately, the first thing I did was get involved in a campaign locally in Quincy for then Mike Bellotti. He hadn't been elected to anything yet, but became the state representative back in '92. And it was a great opportunity for me to first get involved in politics and really find a passion for public service. So I was president of my neighborhood association. I ended up working for Mike at the State House as one of his aides for a year, and going on to work with State Representative John Rogers out of Norwood, and then was pulled over to the other side of the State House in the Senate, working for Senator Morrissey. These Quincy guys tend to actually go up into the world of things. Mike Bellotti went on to be sheriff, now Norfolk County Treasurer. Mike Morrissey is now our district attorney. But at the time, I had the bug to take a leadership role. I had learned a lot at my 2.5 years at the State House, and there was a vacancy on the Quincy City Council back in 1995. And I took a shot at it, representing my district in Ward 3. I was successful that first time out, and I learned very quickly a lesson in politics too. Mike Morrissey, who was my friend, and I was his aide at the State House, he specifically said to me right away, only room in this office for one politician. So congratulations on your election to the city council, but it's time for you to focus on that and not the Senate office. So I served 3 terms on the Quincy City Council, focusing on just, bread and butter issues in the community, fixing potholes, repairing streets, rebuilding parks and schools, and all those local issues that really make a community great. And then at the same time, I was going to law school. I graduated from Suffolk Law School in 2000. and at the same time got married. So all kinds of fun stuff was going on at the same time. And I talked about those multiple jobs I had during that time to put myself through law school. City council salary, not bad, but wasn't great. But I was bartending, I was DJing, I was doing a whole host of singing gigs at the time. So did whatever it took to get to where I needed to go. But graduated law school, became an attorney, and also decided after 3 terms in the city council that I was going to move on to either something else or possibly just a law practice, which was great. But the opportunity presented itself to run for countywide office. I had been working with Paul Harold at the Registry of Deeds for about a year and a half. I'd been involved in county politics with then District Attorney Bill Keating. And the opportunity to run for Register of Probate for Norfolk County was open. It was an open seat. So I took a look at it. I knew enough about estate law to be dangerous. I knew a little bit about family law, but my passion was about access to justice. I did that on the local level about people, constituents having access to City Hall. And I really found the passion for building access to justice issues for people throughout Norfolk County relating to family law and their issues that they might have. So I was blessed by the voters of Norfolk County, including the town of Brookline, to serve 3 terms as Register of Probate, a total of 18 years. Learned so much about families and about struggles. And, we dealt with people that were going through tough times in their life, divorce, death of a loved one, incapacity of a loved one. We dealt with opioid issues in the probate and family court. Dealing with folks that couldn't afford legal representation. I started a Lawyer of the Day program there. So access to justice initiatives were something that I was really passionate about. But I think similar to my 3 terms on the city council, the 3 terms as Register of Probate, I found it was time to move on, to focus on something different, to take my passions and my skill sets to something else. And it just so happened that at the same time, my good friend, my former boss, Mike Bellotti, had got himself his own promotion by becoming president of Quincy College. And that created a vacancy in the office of sheriff. The governor appointed an interim sheriff for a couple of years, but the statute says in the vacancy that the governor shall appoint an acting sheriff until the next state election, which was the recent election of 2020. Campaigned for 2 years throughout the 28 towns in Norfolk County, talking about my skill set, my background, my passion for public service and for helping people, and kind of coming up with some innovative ideas on how I thought the criminal justice system ought to work and how we could really focus on rehabilitation and reentry options. And once again, the voters in Norfolk County gave me the privilege and the honor to now serve as their sheriff. So as we said, I just started in January. We hit the ground running only because I'm only serving the last 2 years of Sheriff Bellotti's term. And so therefore I need to move on next year. And hopefully, if I've done a good enough job in these short 2 years, hopefully the voters will agree with me and send me back for a full 6-year term.
So you're new on the job, and I assume Norfolk County issues you a couple of 6-shooters, a cowboy hat, and a horse, and you ride around picking up people wanted for robbing trains, right? That's what sheriffs do, isn't it?
That's what Hollywood and it would depict it as such. There's been many a movie made. Anybody that watches a fan of westerns will see, here comes the sheriff, or there's a new sheriff in town, and that was what was going on with me for the first few months in office. But yeah, at the end of the day, and it's very different. Sheriffs across the county are treated are different in their capacity. Especially right now, I'm actually dialing in I'm attending the Major County Sheriffs of America conference. It's being held here in Boston, so I'm downtown Boston at that. And it's all the major county, any county that has over 600,000 people. So we have a very diverse crew, and there are some of our sheriffs come right in. They get the big cowboy hat, the belt buckle. They've got a sidearm present, and they have that presence about them. Whereas a lot of sheriffs do law enforcement. They do patrols out in their community, much like in Massachusetts, our municipal police departments do. Whereas sheriffs up here in Massachusetts and in most of the Northeast serve a little bit of a different role. We're not preeminently a law enforcement agency, although we do handle law enforcement issues, and we partner with our partners and our friends in the local municipal departments. But predominantly the sheriff's role, the primary role of the sheriff in Massachusetts is the care and custody of inmates and care and custody at the House of Correction in the respective 14 counties. And so that care and custody component is important. So as folks go through the criminal justice system and they are either awaiting trial, so we hold some of the men that we are holding, the offenders are being held waiting for trial. And we also have sentenced inmates. And in the House of Correction, we have jurisdiction over crimes that have up to 2.5 years of penalty to serve time in the House of Correction. So mostly minor, there's no crimes that are minor, I should say, but crimes that are not considered felonies. So there's minor, there's usually a lot of motor vehicle violations, drunk driving issues, assaults and battery, some minor burglary cases, shoplifting, things of that nature. Less crimes in like murder or rape, although we have some of those folks waiting trial. But that's the number one role as the sheriff on statute and on paper. But most of us sheriffs have realized that, especially with the evolution of law enforcement and the focus on police reform, and I campaigned on an initiative of being really a focus on public safety and being the chief public safety officer in Norfolk County. And we've made great strides talking with our various first responders, our fire, our police, our ambulance workers, to really talk about public safety issues throughout the county. And that's been kind of my role. I campaigned on a theme of prevention, intervention, education, and hope. And we tie that into our policies as we're making them as the sheriff on a day-to-day basis. And it really comes down to, what folks are doing prior to them getting involved in the criminal justice system. What happens when I have them in my care and custody? And my real focus is how well we succeed for the population post-incarceration. And that's really where my focus is going to be, is to make sure that we rehabilitate offenders to a point where they can come back to the town of Brookline or the city of Quincy and be model citizens and be participating in the local communities that they live in. So that's my goal as sheriff. And, between that and a whole host of community programs that we do, there's so much going on in the sheriff's office. Every day to me is Christmas morning, opening up a new gift. And it's a gift of the opportunity to serve the people that I represent.
So tell us about some of the programs. I know that my viewers absolutely are excited about prevention, intervention, education, and hope. Maybe they thought about it a little differently, but certainly helping people who are incarcerated, who are under care and custody, get on the straight and narrow, or at least the straighter and narrower. That's a vision that I think a lot of my viewers share, right? We want folks to get out of prison, or in your case of jail, and be productive, behave, be good neighbors. And so what are some of the programs that you've been working on or that you've been working with your folks on to help get the folks under your care and custody to that point?
So going along with the theme of, our prevention programs are all about educating mostly youth. So we focus before anybody gets involved in the criminal justice system. We have a real focus on juvenile issues, and I'm working right now with creating a partnership with our juvenile court in Norfolk County to really kind of tackle some of those at-risk youth that are already involved in our criminal justice system as juveniles. That hopefully don't graduate into our district courts and get into that level. So we want to work with our juvenile offenders to make sure that they get back on track. We're going to be putting together a task force on that, which is going to be focused on juvenile offenses, which is also going to lap in mental health and opioid use or general drug use as juveniles, to focus on those at-risk populations before they get involved in the criminal justice system in the first place. And the youth are the predominant ones we're focusing on. But the bigger population is obviously the population that does get convicted and is serving. And it's that middle piece of intervention and education. Most of the men that are serving, and it's all men right now in the Norfolk County facility, our female population, which is about 26 female offenders, are currently serving in the House of Correction in Suffolk County, but we're working on hopefully a partnership to bring our female offenders back into our region with the proper programming for them. But our male population, we focus on the basic needs of what people are looking for. And most of the men that we're dealing with, there's educational issues, so we focus on making sure they're on the right track for at least a high school GED program to get them back into basic literacy skills as well as math skills. So we focus on those basic education skills, and then we build it up from there. We have a partnership with Quincy College that is right now going to be we're going to have live streaming of college courses that people can take while they're incarcerated. So education is going to be a big piece for most of these men, and hopefully get them on the right track there. Work skill development. A lot of these guys haven't been able to keep a job for a long time based upon that primary education piece, but also having work skills. So we've actually partnered up with a bunch of different organizations to create skill development opportunities for these men. One of the programs that we have is a grant through one of our local community colleges for HVAC certificate. So we're hoping to get some of our men to take that HVAC certificate program so that when they get out into the real world, they'll have a job in the heating and air conditioning field. We have a great reentry coordinator who is actually working now with outside agencies, especially our friends in labor, have been absolutely fantastic on creating a partnership with the Norfolk County Sheriff's Office to give men an opportunity to possibly go into the labor market, to go into whether it's being a carpenter, an electrician, a plumber. Every business agent I spoke to in the labor community, not one has said no. Not one has said, no, we don't take convicted felons. It's not our thing. They've all said, we believe in second chances, and we will give, based upon the recommendation of the sheriff and the office, we'll give that person a chance of an opportunity if they express an interest. So we're working right now with our labor unions to create those opportunities for our justice-involved individuals. That's exciting. We have other programs that we're working on that too. We have we hired a horticulturalist who focuses on teaching basic skills on landscaping because we're looking to where the jobs are. And right now, landscaping job, you can't get a landscaper to come to your house right now because they're too busy, or they don't have enough crew, or they don't have enough staff. So there are viable jobs out there for men on that skill level. So we're trying to, he teaches people how to do proper, trimming of bushes, how to plant flowers, how to plant vegetables. We get an active program going there. We're hopefully going to be opening up at some point a workshop at our facility with, whether it's woodworking or some other skill sets once we have that program up and running, so we can have inmates actually directly involved. The other industry that is desperately looking for people is the hospitality industry. Hotel workers, restaurants, and we're building partnerships now with the business community through the chambers of commerce to find out where the needs are in the local communities. We actually we have a culinary arts program that's going to be starting up. We're going to be bringing a chef in to actually teach basic skills on how to be a prep cook, and it's very simple thing, how to make a salad. But that creates a job opportunity, and once again, another job set that I had. I worked in a restaurant for 6 years, and I was on the fast track to being a restaurant manager at one point until they closed the restaurant that I was working at. But I knew the value of going through the ranks, starting with a dishwasher, becoming a prep cook, becoming a line cook, to become the kitchen manager. And there's an opportunity for these men if they learn those basic skills. So there's no idea that's a bad idea. I don't believe there's anything that we can't bring into the jail as a skill development. We're going to be, what we want to focus is on mindset development too. We can have all the best programs in the world, but if we can't convince our justice-involved individuals on how to change their mindset, how to create goals and visions for themselves and their life, then all will be lost. They'll be just checking a box. They'll just be going, yeah, I went to that course, I took that course. They were just doing time at the House of Correction. I really want to change mindsets. I want to go in and talk to these gentlemen and say, look, you have an opportunity right now because you're on a timeout. You're on a pause in your life. You've been sentenced to the House of Correction. I'm not sure how long we will have them for. averages sometimes only about 4 months, despite the fact they can serve up to 2.5 years. But if we can change their mindset, get them to reset their thinking that there is a positive path to go in life, and that's the number one goal. Everything else just becomes part of the equation when we find out what they want to be, what their goals, what their aspirations are. And so that's that intervention and education piece right in the middle. And finally, it's the hope piece. The hope piece says there's a vision that you can have if you put the work in, that you can have a prosperous life and be a contributor to the community. And we're focusing right now, and I know it's a signature issue for you, Rep, is civics lessons for inmates and talking about voting and the importance that their vote matters, especially on the local level. And so we want to start educating our justice-involved individuals on the importance of civics life. And so that hope piece, when you get back into the community, you will be welcomed. We have inmates right now who are on pre-release that get to go out into the community now and do work projects. And it's a valuable thing for various municipalities who take advantage of the program to have the sheriff's office come out, and whether it's cleaning up a park or a local cemetery, once again, some of our guys that are now trained on doing some of that landscape work. I mean, there's some flower beds that are around Norfolk County that have been maintained by inmates that are doing a phenomenal job, and they really help beautify the community. I know we're working in the Needham Housing Authority, retrofitting some of their units. I think we've been in the Wellesley Housing Authority as well. But that workforce that we have, which is now it's unfortunate, but now it's a small workforce because we haven't had more folks coming into our facility since COVID. But I think with the courts opening up, there might be more people being sentenced and will be part of that program. But it also, once again, they go back into the community on that program. And the feedback that we get, but more importantly, what the inmate gets is a simple thank you, a nice job. And those letters that I get from the communities, I don't just put them in the drawer. I don't put them in a folder. I bring them over and I say, hey, your work that you're doing on a day-to-day basis means something to people. And this is the kind of thing that you can do if you choose to do so when you leave our facility. And I promise them all as they leave, there's no requirement to stay in touch with us. There's no, sometimes there's a requirement to check in with probation. But I'm going to work with probation and say, look, the sheriff's office is more than willing to do some follow-up and coaching and talking to and having a check-in opportunity for some of these men and help them get housing in place, get a job in place, get into the education partnerships that we've forged for them post-incarceration. So that's where the hope piece comes. And I get jazzed up about it only because I've seen success stories, but unfortunately not everybody gets the big picture. And maybe it's as simple as they haven't been provided the opportunity or it hasn't been shared with them. I intend to make it a daily opportunity that my staff shares with these guys that there is hope if they focus on doing the work.
Sheriff, thanks for spending some time with us. I know you've got a lot going on, hanging out with the major county sheriffs from around the country. I imagine you're all going to stroll into Fenway Park at some point. If you haven't yet, show them the USS Constitution. We love to show off Boston and the surrounding area to the rest of the country. And that includes the sheriffs. And, we're a little bit safer with all of you men and women wandering around our region. And thanks you for sort of talking us through the reality that at least in Norfolk County, the jail system isn't a place where people get dumped and they just ride out their time until they get sort of kicked back out again, that there really is effort on rehabilitation and helping men at the time, but maybe we'll get some women back, really give them some tools to be their best selves, to lead better lives for themselves. And I wish you the best of luck in the next year or so, and do a great job. The people will reelect you. That's what you guys like you and I hope, right?
Name of the game. If we do, good government makes for good politics, as I say. And I just want to let everybody know there's so much going on, but if you want to participate, learn a little bit more about what we do, check out our website, norfolksheriff.com. Follow us on all the social media platforms. We're at Norfolk Sheriff. You'll find us. You can follow our day-to-day antics. And yes, we were at the Constitution last night, a fantastic time. And tonight the Sheriffs are going to participate in the greatest ballpark in the history of baseball, heading to Fenway Park and giving them a real treat.
I love it. Well, listen, you all have been watching Brookline Interactive Group. I'm Tommy Vitolo, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.